Juntos por la conservación de la Amazonía peruana. Bosques,
Ready
agua,
for the conservation,
suelos,
preservation of the Amazonian.
cultivos,
Woods, the
agricultores,
forests, agriculture,
comunidades,
soils, communities,
ecosistemas y biodiversidad
ecosystems,
saludables,
and
conviviendo en equilibrio para que las
biodiversity,
personas
healthy
y la
in
naturaleza
themselves,
prosperen
will
juntas.
combine
Esa
in
es nuestra
order to
misión.
allow nature to be together
Por
and
eso
live
trabajamos
together.
con
This is our
agricultores
mission.
y
This is why
comunidades
we
forestales,
work with
desarrollando
farmers and forest
oportunidades
communities to develop
económicas,
sustainable
sostenibles y fortalecimiento de
economic
capacidades
opportunities and
agrícolas y
strengthen
ambientales para
agricultural and
incrementar los
environmental
esfuerzos por conservar
opportunities to
los
increase
recursos
efforts
naturales.
to preserve natural
De esa forma,
resources.
la
In
presión
this
sobre las
way,
áreas
the
forestales
pressure
se
on
reduce y
forest
se
areas
protege
is
la
reduced
biodiversidad.
and biodiversity
Las
is
comunidades
protected.
indígenas
Indigenous
administran casi
communities
una
manage
cuarta
nearly a
parte de las
quarter of
tierras
the
del mundo,
world's land.
y eso significa que
And this
cuidan
means that they
80% de
care
la
for
biodiversidad de la
80%
tierra.
of the Earth's
Las
biodiversity.
investigaciones muestran que estas
Research shows
comunidades
that
logran
these
resultados
communities
de
achieve
conservación
conservation
al menos
outcomes at
iguales a
least
los de las
equal
áreas
to those of
protegidas
government-run
administradas por el
protected
gobierno,
areas.
con una fracción de presupuesto.
With a fraction of the
La
budget,
expansión de la agricultura
the expansion
para
of
satisfacer
agriculture
la
to meet
demanda
demand
es una de las
is one of the
principales
main
causas de
causes
la
of
deforestación.
deforestation.
Los problemas de la eficiencia
Resource
de los
efficiency,
recursos,
waste
reducción de los
reduction, and
desechos y la
integrating
necesidad de
sustainability
integrar las
practices
prácticas de
across
sostenibilidad en todos los
sectors
sectores a fin de asegurar patrones
to improve
sostenibles de
sustainable
consumo y
consumption
producción
and production
son cada vez
patterns
más urgentes
are
para
increasingly
alcanzar los
urgent
objetivos de
to achieve the
desarrollo
sustainable
sostenible.
development goals.
Ponemos a disposición
We
nuestros
offer
expertos
experts
en temas de
in
clima,
climate,
agricultura sostenible,
sustainable
manejo forestal,
agriculture, forest
implementación de
management,
iniciativas con comunidades nativas,
implementation
economía indígena y
in order
acceso
to
a
help
financiamiento
Indian peoples
para
building
desarrollar los
indigenous
paisajes
economies, the
más
most
emblemáticos.
emblematic
Juntos
landscapes.
podemos fortalecer a
Together,
los
we can
productores y las
strengthen
comunidades
producers
nativas,
and
que son
native
los
communities,
principales guardianes
which are the
de la
main
conservación
guardians
de la
of the
Amazonía
conservation of the Peruvian Amazon. Unfortunately, we do not have sound in the booth, in the interpreter's booth. We do regret, but we do not have sound in the English booth. In any of the booths.
Las preguntas que puedan surgir, las cuales pueden compartirnos a través de la plataforma del evento. A continuación, mi colega Javier Martínez, gerente de Paisajes Amazónicos Sostenibles de Rainforest Alliance, compartirá con ustedes detalles respecto a nuestro modelo de intervención integral para impulsar paisajes y medios de vida sostenibles. Adelante, Javier.
Muchas gracias, Patricia. Muy buenos días con todos. Mi nombre es Javier Martínez. Soy el gerente senior de Paisajes Amazónicos Sostenibles de Rainforest Alliance. Voy a contarles sobre cómo lograr esta prosperidad rural de la mano con la conservación a través de acciones colaborativas. La siguiente, por favor. Ok, entonces el título que le mencionaba está muy alineado a la visión de nuestra organización, donde imaginamos un mundo donde las personas y la naturaleza prosperan en armonía. Esta aspiración es corta pero muy concreta y de hecho muchas de las
Y si te
organizaciones que
consiguen un
participan la comparten. Pero el reto que vemos es cómo trasladamos este concepto, estas aspiraciones al campo para lograr impactos positivos a nivel de las personas y las naturalezas. Pues venimos haciéndolo a través de modelos de intervención, los cuales responden a contextos, prioridades, riesgos presentes en el momento que las diseñamos. Durante nuestra experiencia de más de 34 años como organización hemos diseñado e implementado modelos enfocados en esta
Sí,
profunda
entiendo muy bien.
interdependencia que existe
Bueno,
entre los
para mí
pequeños
mi
productores y
computadora
las
es
comunidades,
esta y me
como el
funciona
medio de
súper
vida y
bien.
los procesos colaborativos que a través de las alianzas logramos. La siguiente, por favor. Otro elemento importante, adicional a la siguiente, por favor. Ok, gracias. Otro elemento importante que orienta nuestra intervención son los
Oye,
objetivos
pues, ¿qué hacemos?
estratégicos
No hay sonido, ve ahí
institucionales.
objetivos
Podemos ver
estratégicos.
acá los 4 objetivos estratégicos institucionales.
Ya,
Solo quiero
parece que
resaltar algunos
I only want
aspectos
to highlight
relacionados a
some
la
of the
ponencia de hoy,
aspects
que están
related to
dirigidos,
today's
por
paper,
ejemplo,
which
de
are
cómo logramos la
addressed
sostenibilidad
to how we
y
can
cómo
achieve
vemos la sostenibilidad. La
sustainability.
sostenibilidad
And,
nosotros la
well,
percibimos como un
sustainability for
viaje
us
de
is
mejora
kind of a
continua, es
travel
decir,
of
a través
continuous
del tiempo
improvement
vamos logrando un
through
mejor
times.
desempeño para
We
finalmente
will
lograr la
be
sostenibilidad.
achieving
Pero
better
para poder saber que
performance, but
estamos
in order to
desarrollando
know that we
mejoras
are
en el tiempo
developing
para lograr la
improvements a long
sostenibilidad,
time,
tenemos
in
que
order
medirlos de
to
manera objetiva.
achieve
Tenemos que
sustainability, we
usar
have to
datos,
have
tenemos que usar
objective
tecnología
measures, data,
para saber hacia
technology,
dónde nos estamos
in order to
dirigiendo,
know
cuánto
where
hemos
we are
avanzado
heading
en
to,
esa
how
mejora
much
continua hacia la
we have
sostenibilidad.
improved in
Y
this
por
continuous
supuesto
improvement
que
process.
también
And
teniendo en
obviously,
cuenta algunos elementos como la
taking into account
diversificación.
some
La
elements such as
diversificación que nos
diversification,
permite de
the
alguna manera más
diversification
efectiva
that
estar
allows
atentos
us
ante
to
los
really
riesgos.
be very attentive
Y un
to
cuarto
risk,
elemento que
dangers.
es
And the fourth
escalar, cómo
element
pasar de
is
una
to escalate
gestión
how to go
individual,
from an
sectorial, a un
individual
enfoque más
sectorial
integral,
management
a un
to
enfoque
a
más
more
holístico,
thorough,
desde una
some
perspectiva más de
holistic
paisaje libre,
approach with a
entendiendo
learning
múltiples cadenas
perspective
y
where
múltiples
we
sectores.
have
La
several,
siguiente, por
multiple
favor.
chains. Next slide, please.
Y es por ello que
And this is
diseñamos,
why we
y pues nos vamos
designed,
a entrar en detalle en
and
la
we're
charla,
going to
implementamos un modelo integral
give
con
further
enfoque de paisaje
detail. We have
que nos
this
permite
integral model
concentrar
having
nuestros
the
objetivos
landscape
estratégicos,
as
nuestra
our
visión,
approach. Therefore,
en
we
un
have
solo
our strategic
territorio, en un
objectives
paisaje
or a
modelo.
vision
Por
in
ejemplo,
a
en la
model
figura podemos
landscape.
ver
For
la
instance,
provincia
here
de
on the
Lamas,
chart,
que es un
you can
paisaje
see the
prioritario
Lamas
seleccionado por la organización, en la cual
place area,
la
and
provincia
here
tiene una
we
serie
see
de
that the
oportunidades
province has a series of
en esta
opportunities and
provincia
potentials. In
podemos
this
encontrar
province,
café, cacao,
we can
palma,
find
agricultura, turismo,
coffee,
negocios.
cocoa,
Entonces, el paisaje, pues, es un
bio-businesses
paisaje
in
bastante
one
diverso
single
en general.
landscape. Therefore, this
Y en
is
ese
very
sentido,
diverse
es que
and
a nivel
integrated.
del paisaje,
And
si
at
queremos
the
intervenir
landscape
con un
level, if
enfoque de
you want to
paisaje,
take part with this
definitivamente tenemos que
landscape
considerar
perspective, definitely we
las
have to
diferentes
take into
cadenas de
account
los
the
diferentes
different
actores
chains, the
que
different
intervienen en este
actors
paisaje.
who take part
Y
in
lo que
this
hemos
landscape.
diseñado dentro
And
de
what
este
we
modelo
have
integral son los
designed
planes de
in
acción
this
y de
integrated model
es decir, cómo
is
los distintos
investment and action
actores
plans. In
de
other
las
words,
cadenas
how the
productivas
different actors
definen
of
algunas
productive
metas
chains
comunes a
define
nivel del
some
paisaje
common goals at the
y,
landscape level.
y abordan estas
And
metas
they
comunes
tackle these common
que pueden ser
goals
a nivel de
that
financiamiento,
can
a nivel de
be
mercado,
at
a
the
nivel de asistencia
financial
técnica.
level, technical
Los
assistance,
abordamos a
market
través de
levels,
herramientas, es
and
decir,
we
este modelo
really
integral
tackle
con
them
enfoque de paisaje
using all these
es
tools. So
implementado
this integrated
en este
models with
territorio
this
a través de
landscape
herramientas para
approach
diseño.
is integrated with the tools we
Como podemos
have
ver en la
made.
siguiente lámina,
As
por
we
favor.
will be able to see on the next chart, please.
Tenemos una intervención en la
We
cual
have an
definimos
intervention whereby we define the next
Definimos una
slide,
línea
please.
base.
We define a baseline.
a partir de esta línea
And
base
from this
identificamos cuáles son
baseline,
las
we
brechas
identify what the
para
gaps are in
digamos,
order to
un estándar o un ideal
develop a
de gestión a
standard
nivel
or a
paisaje.
management
Una vez
ideal
identificadas
at
las
the
brechas,
landscape
enfocamos nuestra
level.
asistencia
And once we
técnica,
have this,
el mercado
we
necesario, el
really
financiamiento para
manage
lograr
our
la
technical
sostenibilidad
assistance in order
finalmente
to attain sustainability. And finally, the vision and the mission we have already spoken of, but in each one of the steps, in order to develop this stage, we define a series of tools that have been achieved through the expertise and experience. As you can see on this chart, you see that we have over 200 tools for each one of the stages. The next slide, please, the speaker request, after our intervention model. And what we have done is to organize this information. No, please, the next slide, he requests. Okay, thank you. So I was telling you that we have registered, recorded these 200 tools, over 200 tools in the intervened countries, and these tools systematize all the lessons learned in the field, and they extrapolate them to an easy use tool both for professors and technicians. Next one. Here, in this opportunity, I'm going to really be focused on three of them. We have the landscape tool, the green loans, which has to do with financing, and accountable market. The first tool I want to speak of is land scale. This tool allows us to measure and monitor the performance at the landscape level. This is very important, and I think we all agree, because we do not only need to intervene in specific productive chains, but actually we have to intervene the landscape. How does this intervention take place? Well, in such a way that we are moving forward and improving the landscape. So this tool allows us to measure how the landscape is, and with different time evaluations we are allowed to monitor the improvements we have made at the landscape level. The tool is formed by three elements. We have the evaluation framework, where we have all the protocols, the indicators, and how this evaluation is seen in the landscape. And one other component is the verification mechanism. In other words, which are the elements that really makes us be certain that any evaluation made by any of the users is made being abided by the protocols and the guidelines. And the third component is the platform of reports, the reporting platform. Everything is translated in a very friendly way to this tool. Next one, please. So I will describe the evaluation framework, the first component. It's very important because in this framework we have all the data to be evaluated at the landscape level. We see here areas that have 36 indicators and 76 performance parameters, and these include the governance, production, and human standards. So we have indicators for each one of the components, and this allows us to have a more integrated, holistic evaluation, and therefore we have evaluations whereby we determine a baseline, and in the different evaluations we make in the year and in the next years, we are able to know how we are improving or how this performance at the landscape level has been distributed. And the results we can view after making this evaluation with the landscape tool can be seen in the reporting platform. And the point is that we will report graphically in a better explained way, more didactically, which are these results. So the next one, which are these results we are achieving at the landscape level, and we can see several examples. For instance, the improvements in terms of the gap, the electric energy, how this is going to be sold, CO2 emissions, which are public and private investments that are being channeled to the landscape in order order to cover these activities and contact information. So this report platform can be seen by any user, client, investor who will be able to see what are the landscapes that are better managed and what's the best performing head. Next one, please. And this work through the tool can only be made if we develop a participated process where several actors take place or take action in this participative process. And with this tool, we can identify which is the baseline landscape-wise. Well, we cannot see the next chart. So I was telling you that through this tool we can define which is the baseline, the management baselines, which are the gaps we have at this landscape management position, and we can also identify which are the different commitments different actors will be committed to. When I was telling you about the landscape, I was telling you as well how participation will take place and actors define goals at the landscape level in order to be able to cover these gaps. And these goals that define these endeavors will also take into account investments, and of course we need to monitor all these goals that have been defined by multiple actors. Next one, please. And real quick, I will tell you about this second tool. We're speaking about green loans. Later this will be further discussed. We have a joint initiative that is being implemented with Norandino. We need to have a green loan portfolio. What does this mean? To see how some producers are interested in migrating from a traditional loan to a green loan, to a green portfolio. And what does this mean? Well, that producers will be able to implement some commitments at the environmental level. On the chart, you see that there are some criteria that have to be complied with, the ancillary ones and the compulsory ones. And one of the compulsory or binding agreements is not to have deforestation. So if they commit themselves not to make any deforestation, they will be able to migrate to these loans. So these financial products rather, are being designed in order to have some incentives. For instance, that loans will not only be focused on the short term or for specific cultures from 1 to 3 years, but actually from the mid to the long term. If we want to have reforestation, we can have access to these loans, taking into account that these resources have different objectives in the mid and long run. And this is not only valid for investments, but also for working capitals. And this is very important because we need to have better rates of interest. And actually, this will only be accomplished if all the actors are involved. So the money which is channeled by Norandino is also necessary for these organizations to be committed to the environment. So if they channel investments to Norandino, vis-a-vis proving a better improvement with the producers, they will set forward all these conditions so that this green portfolio will be very attractive with all these incentives. Therefore, we have created a series of documents, materials not only focused on technical activities, but using a financial language in order to be able to share this with investors who will be able to channel funds to Norandina. We have had some talks, and the last improvements have been made with Ecobismo Spa. We are having talks in order to channel all these investments and be able to place this in the green portfolio. Javier, I want to just let you know that you have about 1 minute. Thank you very much, but it will real quick. In order to be able to attain this, Norandina has to have capacities, abilities, and therefore we are creating a tool able to detect deforestation. So it is having talks with the Programa Bosques in order to allow those people who want to have a green loan and be able to use the geo server in order to have access to early alerts. So here we see the digital monitoring of these areas in those places where these events or situations take place. We will be able to make field visits. Well, this is the next slide, and one other important part of this endeavor is the market issue. Here we see the sustainable production in Sangre de Grado, and actually they are selling this at 300 soles with each rastrera, and these responsible companies should be really the norm, not just an sporadic endeavor, not just as a company supplying products on an on basis, but on a continuous basis, and be able to work with the quality of the product. We are making a study with some institutions, and this allows us to intervene and give sustainability. And of course, all this landscape approach, this holistic intervention is really possible by means of alliances, and these alliances allow us to develop collaborative actions which are on its way. And next, we will listen to the other panelists who will discuss these issues. Thank you very much, Javier.
As you have said, the risks of climate change make us go beyond and see the challenges at a landscape level. And in order to preserve nature at a landscape level, we have to go from an individual management to collaborative systems with the different stakeholders of a given landscape. As mentioned, four of our key allies are, we have the government of San Martin with Mr. Tito Hidalgo, who is going to be sharing the experience of the San Martin region with respect to the fostering of regional economic development with a territorial focus. Please, the video.
Well, hello to all the participants of the Global Landscape Forum. So today we are going to share with all of you the experience of the San Martin region at the core of the center of Peru with respect to the fostering of regional economic development with a territorial focus. In the past years, this fostering effort for regional economic development with a territorial focus has allowed this region to be number 6 of the GDP from the agricultural sector in Peru. And
in different
de la costa,
regions
solo superadas
along the
por 6
coast,
regiones
only
que están vinculadas más a una agricultura
after 6
de
regions that
agroexportación,
are
donde los
focusing
servicios,
on
la
agro
tecnología
experts,
es
where
de fácil
services and
acceso.
technology is at the tip of
Esta
your
ubicación
fingers.
se ha logrado
Now, this
gracias
has been
a que en los últimos 12
possible
años la región San
because in
Martín
the past 12
ha
years, the San
escalado
Martin region
como,
has
que como la región que más ha
escalated
crecido
as the
en
fastest
desarrollo
growing
productivo a nivel
region for
nacional,
in terms of productive
ubicándose
development at
al
national
año
level. And in
2020 con
2020,
un crecimiento del
it had a
78%,
78% growth
pasando de un PBI de 960
from a
millones
GDP of
a un
60
PBI
million
de 1.700 millones de
to
soles.
1.7 million
Este
billion.
crecimiento
And this growth
productivo
that
con
is, of
cifras
course, productive with
claras a nivel
clear
nacional se ha
country-wise figures
podido concretar
has been
porque la región
possible
San Martín
because at the San Martin
ha basado
region,
este crecimiento
this
sobre
growth
políticas
is based on
territoriales.
territorial policies.
Como primera política territorial,
The first territorial
es
policy
haber
is
zonificado
the
a la región
zone-based
de acuerdo a sus potencialidades.
division of the
Hoy la
region
región San
according
Martín
to the
tiene
potentials,
claramente
and the San Martin
establecida,
region
de acuerdo a su
today,
zonificación económica
based
y
on
ecológica,
economic and
cuáles son sus
ecological
zonas de
regions.
protección.
Of course, the protection
En este mapa, esta zona
zones.
verde,
We
cuáles
see
son sus
that
zonas de recuperación.
those are the
En
green
este
areas
mapa, el
in
color
green,
violeta,
and then the purple are
las zonas
the
productivas
recovered regions, and then the
que
productive
representan el
zones or
color amarillo,
areas are the
y
green
también las zonas de
areas,
tratamiento
and
especial,
those
las
that
zonas
have
de
special
vocación
treatments
urbana y rural.
and urban and rural used
Además, la
zones.
segunda política
The second policy
territorial
at a territorial
regional
level in the
nos
region
invita a ver la gobernanza para la
allows us to
gestión
see
del
governance
territorio,
for
pero basado
territorial
sobre el
management based
desarrollo
upon the
humano sostenible.
development of sustainable human
Y es
possibilities and the articulation between the economic and with the ecological, with the social, and with the
trabajando el tema de tecnologías limpias,
political
la identidad cultural,
sectors
la
are
participación
key,
ciudadana
of
tan
course,
importante para todo
with
proceso
citizenship
de desarrollo
involvement
social,
and cultural
y también
identity, of course, clean
la
technologies
inversión pública y
and
privada.
public and private
porque todo
investment.
desarrollo
Because
no es un milagro
development
si no hay
is
inversión.
not a miracle. It calls for
Estas dos políticas,
investment. And these two
tanto la
policies,
política del territorio
the one that
sobre
has
las
to do with
sobre
the
sus
territory
potencialidades
and its potential,
y la
and the
gobernanza
second
para
one
la
that has
gestión
to
del
do
territorio
with the
ha
governance
permitido
for
este
territorial
crecimiento
management
que
has
hemos podido
allowed
observar
for the
en
growth
la
that we
primera
have
lámina.
observed before in my presentation.
Estas políticas nos ha permitido también
These policies have allowed us
instrumentos para
to
gestionar el territorio.
develop instruments to manage the territory.
Y estos instrumentos son la
These
zonificación
instruments have to
forestal
do with forestry
y la zonificación
zone
agroecológica.
and
La
agroecological
zonificación
zones.
forestal
The first
básicamente
one
enfocada
is mainly aimed
en el territorio
at
destinado para
the
zonas de protección,
territory
que en la
used
región
for
San Martín
protection
representan
that in San
aproximadamente el
Martin
68%.
accounts for
Es decir, de los
67% approximately. So out of the 5 million hectares,
3.400.000 hectáreas
of them,
están destinadas
in round
o
numbers,
están
are
zonificadas para que sean zonas de
used
protección y conservación.
as protection
O sea,
and
es decir,
conservation
los bosques.
purposes. Therefore, we
¿Qué
are
nos
talking
dice también la
about
zonificación
the
forestal?
forests. Now, what
Existen
about
aproximadamente
forestry zones?
900.000
There are
hectáreas, es
approximately
decir,
900,000
el 17%
hectares, that is
del territorio de San
17% of the San Martin territory,
deben ser
in round
destinadas
numbers,
al
that should be
aprovechamiento
used
forestal.
for
¿Qué quiere decir?
forestry.
Plantaciones comerciales
That is,
forestales.
of course, commercial use
Y
of
un
forestry
13%
resources,
y un
and
13% del
13% of the territory, that is approximately 750,000 hectares, should be used for agriculture, of different
Y también
types.
inclusive tenemos
Likewise,
el 1% destinado para centros
1%
urbanos
is for urban
y
use,
casi medio por ciento
and
que están ocupadas por
0.5%
las cuerpos de agua o
for
los ríos, los
water,
llamamos
the
acá.
bodies of water, or the rivers,
Entonces,
as we
ya San
call them.
Martín en estos
So
momentos
San Martin today
tiene claramente establecido
has
cuáles
clearly
son sus áreas
defined
para poder
the different
aprovecharlas de
areas
acuerdo
in
a sus
order to
potencialidades.
use them based on their potential.
Además de eso, se han construido
Furthermore,
diferentes instrumentos de gestión.
A number of management instruments have been created,
Pero estos instrumentos de gestión
but these
toman
instruments
como primer escenario
consider as
de
the
articulación
first articulation
alineamiento de
scenario
estos
or
instrumentos
alignment scenario
a los objetivos
the
de desarrollo sostenible de
sustainable
las Naciones
development
Unidas.
objectives of the UN.
Después la política regional se
After
alinea
that, the
políticas de
regional
Estado del
policy
Estado
aligns to
como es el plan
the
bicentenario
state policies,
al
namely the
2030.
Plan Bicentenario to
Y ahí
2021
vienen todos nuestros
and
instrumentos de
the
gestión dentro de
Regional
nuestra política
Concentrated
regional que
Development
están
Plan for
alineados,
2030.
como son el
And
plan de
we
desarrollo
also
concertado,
have
el plan
the
de competitividad y
Agreed
productividad regional,
Development
la estrategia de
Program,
desarrollo bajo
the
emisiones,
strategy for low
la programación
emissions,
multianual de las
and
inversiones,
multi-annual
el lineamiento
forecasting
estratégico
of
para la promoción del
investment,
desarrollo
and
económico bajo en emisiones.
the low emission
Esta política
development
territorial,
plan. And all of this,
con estos instrumentos,
with this set of
sostiene sobre
instruments,
7 pilares.
is supported by 7
Que lo vamos
pillars.
y todo este escenario
And
nos
the
permite,
whole
nos permite
scenario
hablar hoy en
is
día
possible
en la región San Martín,
today at the San Martin
en la gestión
region
actual de la revolución productiva.
based on what we call the productive revolution.
El primer pilar,
The first pillar
institucionalidad.
is institutionality.
No es más que cómo nos organizamos
It is the way we organize ourselves at San Martin. This is the different institutions available in order to foster regional economic development. And it starts from the bottom, from the community, therefore articulating the different entities used for local management, and the way we do this at community level goes at a district level with the different municipalities, association represented by the civil society, with the economic development areas. And of course, this is articulated at a province level by means of technical committees for territory provincial areas. We also have tourist development committees at municipality level and also with the representatives of the civil society that are also the basis of a platform that today is considered at an institutional level, at government level, that have to do with the economic development agencies available for each province. These three levels of institutionality or development at province and district and community level also contribute to coordination and dialogue platforms and value chains that we call technical committees or regional committees, such as the COREMIP for the small and medium-sized businesses, also working hand in hand with territory management offices at regional level and the regional development, economic development agency with the development agency at different levels that are at different economic levels, production, experts at energy and mining, and also involving special projects at San Martin, the regional authority for environmental issues, and also the infrastructure office. This is at a regional level, including the ministries and sectors at national level, like the agriculture ministry, tourism ministry, energy and mining ministry. And this scenario comprises a process that is strengthening day in, day out from a community, district, provincial, regional, and national levels. The second pillar of economic development has to do with the production of San Martin. And in order to have it present at differentiated markets so as to open the possibilities to better pricing, and in order to allow producers and all the stakeholders with all of them with access to better income. Therefore, we have a territory-wise brand based on 4 different attributes. That is low emissions, not linked to illegal activities, innovative products, and quality standards and safety, food safety standards. These are the attributes of the San Martin region brand. The third pillar is sustainable private investment fostering or promotion. This process has had the involvement of private investment, and still we have to take the leap in order to have public and private investment. Therefore, we have the Office for the Promotion of Sustainable Private Investment, the OPIPS in Spanish, involving all the stakeholders at regional level, and in order to manage private-public management alliances in order to have productive diversification with products that are more profitable, like Tahiti lime and Tabasco ají, and of course the pitaya, that are already attracting private investment for the development of the region. Here, with this current administration, we have pillar number 4 that has to do with productivity and competitiveness aimed at technological innovation, because we cannot perceive the increase of innovation if we are not managing change. So today we have projects that allow us to work with genetic improvement for stock, and also to move from extensive to environmentally sustainable livestock. And we are also working with the improvement of seeds with rice and maize. We are working also with better technology, with cocoa, with orange, with Tahiti, and also coffee, supported on pillar number 4. We also have agro-territory arrangement in order to assess, to monitor, and to protect our forests, in order to monitor the agriculture activities in order to make sure that everything is along the line of better income for the community and, of course, environmental good practices. Now, number 6 is the regional financial system, and it's something we have to work with very strongly, because we have to go from subsidies with public funds to development fostering via financial tools, the market, of course, and private investment and companies, of course. The 7th pillar is the way we strengthen communities. There are different ways of organization across communities in San Martin and are already involved in different markets. So we have to work on the strengthening of these organizational models and at the same time innovate them. So today we are working at San Martin with 2 different models for community association in order to transform the cocoa industry and the coffee industry that is at in progress today, but also in order to promote and foster economic development at a regional level. What has happened and what has this allowed? Well, to transform San Martin in #1 producer of cocoa and, of course, coffee, rice, banana, and palm oil. And at the same time, we have strengthened, I stress strengthened, ancient traditional practices like maize and orange and cattle growing, and at the same time working with chili, acai, and lime, showing that this growth is thanks to the potential of the territory and as a governance exercise to manage the territory.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. We will stop the video. As we have seen, the regional San Martin government is working from its own policies and its governance in order to manage the territory. And in this regard, with economic, political, and social perspectives, as Ingeniero Tito has told us, the sound is up, we do regret. In these actions, the link with the base organizations is of the utmost importance. We are going to listen to Walter Saldama, the president of the Federation of the Quichuas Indigenous Populations, known as FIPI-Presan, and Lisia Chaputina, president of the collective association Guarnia Guarmiadora, who will share their experience within this integral intervention in this Amazonia province. We will listen to the 2 presenters. Well, hello, it is a pleasure for me to take part at this global forum of landscape. My name is Walter Salgama, and I am the president of this area, where we group 15 communities, which is a population of approximately 8,500 natives. And in this federation, with all these native communities, we have territories, and the woods are protected, and we are still struggling, and actually our objective is this one, is to preserve, and since its inception, because we have been given this acknowledgement, and we also have a legal certainty. So we, in all these native communes, we develop capabilities for both men and women, and it's important to highlight that gender equality for us is very important, and actually each one of us get these capabilities in order for us to know what our rights are and laws that protect us in order to really keep on protecting the so-called forest. So as the Federation and as native communities, we look for alternatives in order to search for a just economy, a fair market, as a result of the efforts made by natives. One of the important results is to really preserve and have our food security, because we depend upon this, and actually we need the economy in order to have a good development in all these native communities, and all these alternatives really help us, because actually we implemented them through our uses and habits. We have the language, we have the moon phases, and we have the learning of our lineage, and through this we preserve everything in order to really develop our native communities. Therefore, it is key to be protected. And actually, we have the woods really standing on, and the forest as well. So we see that children are growing, and this is very important. So this is something of the utmost importance, because we see that the forests have to be preserved in order to keep them for the future. And we see that they are helping native communities to grow. So if we achieve all this, we will try to preserve our organization, and in such a way we have created some strategic alliances that form part of the regional government, and one of the alliances is with Vancouver. They are supporting us, and we also have La Guardiora, which have an association, that has to do with their uses and customs and handicrafts, and we also have Norandino, and they are supporting us to look for funds in such a way that their productivity will not be damaged. They will sell at the best price, fair price, in order to move forward to the development in our own communities. In these alliances, it's also important to see that we have an institution here in Peru called Misa Rastrera, and one of the native communities is almost buying. In this case, they are buying sangre de grado, and they are betting on this endeavor, and they are really giving us a fair price for this type of food. And actually, without any problem, we are launching this latte, and this is very important. The population is really happy, and this comes together with the support of the people who are working with us, and therefore latex is very important. So I invite very many institutions to visit us, to come to know our reality, and to be able to work in a very articulated fashion with all of you. And I want to thank all the cooperating institutions who are really making efforts, no matter whether they are large or small, to help us working and be able to have a sustainable development. Biodiversity for us is very important, and we are really moving forward to looking for this protection. And from now on, we are inviting you to come to San Martin in Peru and preserve our development and comply as it is written in our bylaws as a community and a federation. So I wanted to thank you for having listened to me. This is a very small summary I am presenting at this Global Landscape Forum. And in this way, I wanted to thank you for having listened to us today, and I also wanted to bid you farewell. Thank you very much.
Kay comunidad inimanta pacha, comunidad nativa chunchivimanta. Ñuka kani presidenta kay warmi awadoramanta. Comunidad nikuna chusku, comunidad trabaja sapa mano a mano, choba choba paikunawa. Kay proyecto bosque chaykunata paikuna yachachivashkasapa. Kay proyecto bosque nimanta territorio nimanta pacha comunidad tiyanam. Muy buenos días.
Good morning, brothers and sisters, and good morning, brothers of different countries who are listening to me and how I am working with the forest project that has been given to us in terms of the global change. And I am Sonia Amadora, the president of Lisia Chaputina, and I am one of the weavers of the weaving women. And let me tell you that our weaves that today represent our cultures, we should not lose our clay. We should not lose our Quichua language. This is really something that pertains to us, the natives of this place. We are working here in the name of the forest project that has given this to us, but actually we have just a memory of the weavings we made and also the farming and the white and dark cotton in order to protect our cultures. And we also have cotton as a medical plant for our weavings and to produce this as you see here. We have here our chumbes and all these belts with natural threads, and we were taught this by our ancestors because they planted this, and with this we are producing all this so that we will not lose our culture, and we will have more and more incentives, not only for us but for our children, because you'll see that we are really sustaining our homes and be able to help our family. The family will live together, and we also speak about our husbands, and we do have this great advantage with all these products we are selling today, and they are recognized as Guarmi Aguadora, and we're also selling our products to different niches. Why not say, well, that we are not using the media? We are using the media, and we have been trained by different engineers who have come from different countries, areas, in in order to be able to send our products and have them sold. And now we have this disease, the COVID, and of course our sales have decreased. We are not selling as we have sold always, but thank God this 2020 disease, hopefully it will disappear, God bless, in order for us to sell more and really have first in order to sell our products, in order to support better our homes, our husbands, and also with the help of agriculture. Why can't we sell this? Well, we make belts, we make chumbes, and we have them here, and we have earrings. We also have these keychains, bracelets. We have wallets, money holders, coin holders, in order to have our incentives. This is what we are doing right now. We are producing our products, and also we are also preserving our forests. We are really replanting our communities. And thanks to the forest project, they have brought this support to us in our territories and in our communities. We're moving forward, but we are not going to stop here. Thanks to this forest project, we have the right forest, which is given to us the possibility of organize the products we have, and due to this, we are going to move forward with the forest project. But we will also keep on working with this project to sell our products and move forward to the future. Thank God I decide this. I have told this to the community people and to Right Forest. We have products to sell at the first. Thank you very much. As we can see, the actions in order to promote prosperous and sustainable life methods, preserving the forests with this gender perspective, and really making use of the rules, the knowledge of our ancestors. It does not only need the public sector and its authorities, but also the private sector in order to have access to innovative processes as to develop the integrated model. Next, I will introduce Pilis Rojas, who is the manager of the cooperative of Norandina, and he will really speak about this endeavor of Rainforest Alliance. We cannot hear you clear. Will you please turn on your mic? Well, it is a pleasure to greet you from the northern of Peru. My name is Clever Rojas Hernandez. I am the manager of Norandina. I want to thank Rainforest Alliance for the opportunity it's given us in order to insert the rural population to the international financial level. Norandina is the experiment of agrarian communities. The access to credit in rural areas was very complex. There was none at all. And after the experience of the livestock bank, this rural sector was considered as a difficult issue. This is how 3 agrarian communities, Epicafe, Sembrafe, and Oro Verde in San Martin, got together and we decided to see what alternatives we had in order to finance these farmers. We lacked money. They had improved a lot in terms of the market, organic market, for trade, and some other important associations that really help to get money at a more attainable price. But the most important problem was the financing. So Norandina started to help some farmers in order to give them this, and these farmers really gave this to the ones who were willing to keep on working. We have been working for the last 16 years in the northern part of Peru. We have 4 regions. We are now going into the Loreto area, and the point is that we're very in a very articulated fashion.
So in Norandino, we are not only working with growers, but we are financing agrarian cooperatives that would not receive local financing and which lacked patrimony because they have a market of this sort, and we are looking for fair trade, and therefore in order to do that, we are working in and making financial efforts with growers and with importers as well. And the importers pay directly to us, and that's the way we work. Therefore, they receive these fair trade prices, and therefore they can improve their payment capacity and financial standing. And these would be senseless if we lacked the financial portion of the triangle. Therefore, it is important to work hand in hand in order to work not only at a financial level, but also at a household level, because, for example, in order to build is costly, is difficult, and therefore we have to work hand in hand with other sectors in order to reduce interest rates as well. That's what we were looking for via green products and produces in order to provide better prices for them. The growers are very much committed with green practices and are highly motivated, but us, the stakeholders, have to contribute in order to keep them well incentivized. This is a business model we have been working with and that has yielded good results. We have different chains we have improved with cocoa at San Martin, for example, and gamas and mango along the coastline. Sugarcane we are exporting to Europe, and banana, that is another produce we're working with, and also palm oil we are working with as well. These are the different agrarian organizations, at least some of them that are representative at San Martin, for example. Pretty much most of the agrarian cooperatives are working with us. And I think that that is the success of the model, that each one of the stakeholders work at their own level, and we work exclusively at a financial level. Therefore, we are accountable for the design of products that really fit the agricultural reality. Norandino is working with that, and 71% of our portfolio has an agricultural component, and also we have worked at the urban level, but we are pretty much working at the agricultural and livestock sector level. Working in rural areas, of course, pose a number of difficulties. Commercialization and marketing, it's very difficult for them to sell their products because they are very small producers, and via agrarian cooperatives we have been able to offer the different products. We also have dispersion and absence of financial opportunities. We have created our own way to work, and of course the transfer of money and valuables to those regions with, of course, armored vehicles and specialized companies. That is very complicated. Also, connectivity is very complicated. We have no internet. We have highly disseminated regions. We are working with antennas and mirror technologies. We are trying to take optic fiber in order to give them these opportunities, and a number of difficulties that make financial and financing at this level difficulty. That's why it is difficult to go into these areas. And in Peru, we are betting 100% to agricultural financing with Rainforest Alliance. And the business opportunities we have detected, we have worked in our alliances in order to design tailor-made products. And Norandino is working with the growers, and they are certified at rainforest and, of course, organic level and other things. But we did not have this before. Growers working at this level are now meeting some requirements that we have put on the table in order to have well-qualified products. And if these growers lack certifications, then of course we know that some requirements have to be met as well. Therefore, we are encouraging them in order to work with these certifications, including zero deforestation and tools that have allowed us to work and monitor if they are meeting with these requirements. Of course, it also includes the protection of protected areas and friendly with birds and other fauna, and the use of sustainable fertilizers and integrated pest management in order to preserve the environment. But additional to that, as an institution, we also are working with solar panels at our office level because we don't have electric power, and therefore we are using solar panels, and that is being very successful at the time. Therefore, Norandino does not only have to innovate and provide services, but also look for other mechanisms, thinking and keeping growings in mind so that the growers can receive the best out of their production. Therefore, it's not only a matter of a credit and loan, it is also a matter of working hand in hand with cooperatives and partners. Sometimes transactional costs of doing business and having loans and savings is higher than the interest rate. And therefore, it's no good to have interest rates if we are not having all of these. We now have 21 offices very close to our partners. However, we believe that we do not have the logistic or financial capacity in order to cover all the territory. That is why we're using technology. We have now an agreement with MasterCard for ATMs 24/7 for these communities, and this has allowed for growers to leave the money at the office level and do not keep it at home. It is easier to have liquidity, to have a a pig or hens or whatever in cash. But we have to meet the reality. Oftentimes, they withdraw the money, they take the money home, they keep it there. Norandino is keeping them in mind, and we are working, as I said, with these rural ATMs. We are the only ones. However, in order to work with those ATMs, we need to have these antennas, we need to have the optic fiber. Clever, you have 1 minute left. Yes, we are implementing apps, and that has proven very successful for growers to manage their finances and account management using the mobile apps. But this would be useless without banking and without agents at rural levels to allow them to have access to tangible and liquid resources. And we are working at the different warehouses, different areas to have applicatives and, of course, training and, of course, internet connection in order to work with this financial ecosystem at rural level. That is what we are doing at Norandino, not only loans and credits, but also to provide the whole environment in order to improve their income. Thank you very much. Thank you, Clever. Well, as you mentioned, in order to develop the rural financial system, we need to work hand in hand in the technical assistance and in the triangle you mentioned, because otherwise it is harder for growers to reach their goals and have payment capacity. Please, Clever, join us together with Javier and the other members of the panel for a Q&A. Representing Tite Jaime Hidalgo from the economic development sector, we have Michel Guevara, specialist in planning and monitoring of economic development at San Martin. Our friend Walter Zagama will not be able to be with us due to agenda matters, but still, and after saying this, Javier, I want to share with you the first question. Wonderful presentation. Thank you, Javier. And the questions are, how did you achieve interoperability with other platforms, with the social media, with cybersecurity? What about dangers of excess of technology in more organic practices? And these are only some of the questions. Tools look magnificent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Patricia. And yes, of course, at tool and process level, at platform level, for example, it is important to mention that they should be linked to existing platforms. For example, the early alert platform. This is important because it's not necessary to have new platforms for deforestation monitoring if we already have one. Growers that migrate to this green portfolio upload information of their plots of land, and early alerts are exchanged very quickly to Norandino station, and therefore we are using existing platform. And whenever we do not have a platform, we are working on the design of them. This has to do with landscape. And as I mentioned, there are lots of concepts, lots of good intentions and good ideas to improve management at a landscape level. However, there are not enough concrete ways to measure effectively management at a landscape level. objectively standardized with protocols and processes, and also contributing to the identification of gaps in a way that we may aim our work in the identification of the already mentioned gaps that have mentioned with a very objective standpoint, and therefore we can be efficient in times, efficient in investment matters, and if we do this, we can have greater impact. Now, with respect to security, the platforms contemplate security, of course. There is a lot of strategic information considered at an organization level, and of course, security measures for the different platforms follow all applicable platforms and with the greatest amount of privacy in strategic matters for the organization. Therefore, we have an internal platform managed by the organization with strategic information, and another one that is at the tip of the finger of the users. And this is in order to ensure security at a private, that is internal and public level. Thank you very much, Javier. Now I have a question for Mitchell. Mitchell, can you hear us? Yes, good morning. Good morning, Mitchell. Thank you for being here. Well, thank you very much for having me. I have a question for you. Why the low emission objective versus zero emissions? The vocation of the region could allow to reach the zero emission target? Is it possible? Thank you for the question. Well, undoubtedly, we are not only thinking of agroforestry based on technologies that we are producing for livestock and agricultural sectors. They are all environmentally friendly with respect to the responsibility we have embraced and the international commitment to drop emissions. Aside from that, we believe that reforestation is of utmost importance, and we are working on the improvement of productivity and the productive revolution, as we call it, aimed at reforestation. We are working on and we are making progress in this area. We are aiming at reducing emissions because traditional livestock and agricultural practices have been factors that have allowed for the deforestation of regions and for emission or greenhouse effect gas emissions, of course. And this has been pretty much a misfortune because now we know that deforestation is of great relevance, and we are now working, and the productive revolution goes hand in hand with environmentally friendly technology and, of course, reforestation. Thank you, Mitchell. Javier, we have a question for you. Can you please explain a little bit more of what the landscape focus is and how does it work? What is it? Our territory level, but that is affected by what happens to our neighbor and to the region, and many of the productive regions do not have water, and pollinizing activities have dropped and so forth. And so it's not only a good management of our territory, But we have to go beyond and see what happens around us, and this, of course, implies risks for our business model. That's why it is important to go beyond our territory and to have this landscape view, because in one way or another, that affects our investment and our business models. And if we escalate all the way to the whole scenario, then we can see chains and, of course, communities, protected areas, and management at a landscape level. Of course, calls for interventions at a territory level and at plant level, and common goals and collaborative goals, of course, that we have to cope with at a more participative level. So the landscape tool allows us to define these baselines where we have the scenarios in order to see management at a landscape level with the commitments of the different stakeholders, with the commitment of all the stakeholders. Thank you, Javier. Thank you for your summary, because we know that this is broad. And of course, we could keep on talking about it later on in order to have access to all these contact opportunities. Javier, another question, perhaps together with Lisia. What are the needs of the growers can we commit to support? Well, I only want to stress the relevance of communities mentioned by Walter and Lisia at Lamas. The forest at Lamas is of approximately 270,000 hectares, and out of that, living forest is in native communities and protected areas. Therefore, it is very important to keep up the efforts of protection, but of course generate economy based on that forest for the native communities. Lisia and Walter have talked about that, environmentally friendly practices, and we have to develop an economy based on these and also honoring ancient practices and culture. But Lisia can explain better how can we contemplate development without losing sight of the culture, as she mentioned before. Thank you for this opportunity. We are working with our crafts of the native communities. And we don't want to lose our cultures, because we have our forefathers, our dads, our moms, abuelitos and abuelitas that have incentivated and taught us how to work the chundes and be able to work the products. And it is important for us to teach our children, because they will be the guardians of this culture and practices, and they will cherish what we teach them with baskets, with all the belts and the chundes and the clay we work with as well, and to cherish our crafts and cherish our customs. And we are also respected by our husbands as weavers, as users, and they support us very, very strongly. And therefore, we are also committed to the support of our households. we are more incentivized and we don't want to lose. We will keep on moving forward and working together with a number of products, not all our customs, our heritage, because we have a number of products to work, to share, to export. Due to the COVID, we said that we cannot sell, but still we are incentivized. We are working with the rainforest project, and we know that this will pass. That is what I can tell you. Thank you, Lisia. Thank you, Javier, for your reflections. And of course, the idea is to be able to preserve, to honor culture, and to connect it with innovative and mechanisms and technology. And along these lines, Clever, I have a question for you. Only please a couple of minutes because we are pretty much wrapping up. And how do we strengthen the financial system to make it more inclusive? Wow, that is complicated. Working in rural areas is very complicated. And we're working with technology as part of our strategy, but also we need to work with the articulation at a community level. We are working with agrarian communities in small towns and villages so that they can be organized and so that they can manage not only loans, but also the market. And that has allowed us to reach distant regions at low costs because they are pretty much self-managed, and they help us to control and to conduct necessary management. And therefore, they have included people that did not have access to loans. They don't have property certificates, and they don't even have IDs. And so it is important to strengthen together with organisms like you. How do we bring technology to the table? And how do we bring technology to these communities? That is a challenge, and that is what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much, Clever. And we are pretty much wrapping up the session today. So we want to thank those who have been with us in this session, of course, this morning. Javier, please, final remarks. Closing remarks in order to wrap up the participation in this important forum. Javier, please. Thank you, Patty. I want to say that having a landscape view allows us to escalate our actions, and that is actually the demand we've heard time and again. We all want to escalate. The thing is, how can we reach more places? Of course, aware of the limitations in terms of access and help. We have 8-hour walks to reach some communities, and there are immense gaps in order to develop economic initiatives in far communities. So we have to escalate our interventions. And a way to do that is to have a landscape perspective, and a landscape perspective not only from the standpoint of the environment and Mother Nature, but also escalate at an alliance level, at a stakeholder level. Stakeholders can no longer work alone and develop our productive chains alone, but we need to have common collaborative goals allowing us to be more efficient in terms of time and resources that are pretty much scarce. And we know that we are in a process of developing tools, interventions, and elements at a landscape level. We still have a long way to go. However, I know that we are on the right track. We have to think at a landscape level, therefore being spearhead in order to cope with the challenges of climate change and, of course, the risks that COVID has posed and other things that we will face in the years to come. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Lisia, Clever, Mitchell, and also Walter, Tito, who could not be with us till the end. But thank you very much for your commitment, your time, and for making this sustainable landscape possible working together. I greet you all and thank you very much for joining us in this session. We have the media, of course, open in order to keep up with the conversation. Have a wonderful day.